Hello, I am the Reverend Karen Mercer, and I am so delighted to serve at the Church of the Holy Nativity in Baltimore, Maryland, which is the parish of the late Reverend Dr. Paulie Murray. And if you don't know who Dr. Paulie Murray is or was, please spend some time researching who she was, because she was a dynamic woman. I want to welcome you to Seek and Find, a journey to navigating life. This podcast is an extension of the Amani Project, which is dedicated to uniting young adults aged 18 to 34. Our aim is to share what we think is some valuable information and some fun tidbits that can aid you on your journey through this thing we call life. We hope you'll find our podcast engaging and just keep coming back for more. So throughout our series of podcasts, we're going to interview various guests ranging from young adults to those a little bit older. And we're going to cover diverse topics we hope will captivate you. We definitely encourage your feedback, whether it's through email, and we'll talk to you more about how to drop us an email and let us know what you like, what you don't like, what you'd like to hear more of, what you'd like to explore more fully. We are definitely here to provide information and that we think would be of value to you. And the way we learn about that is if you tell us what you like. And welcome to our podcast from the Church of the Holy Nativity, the Amani Project. And I am Reverend Karen Mercer. I am so happy today to be here with Mr. Justin Rose. We are going to bring you, I think, an exciting topic. We're going to be here to talk about setting goals and what that looks like, especially for not just young people, but especially right now, looking at young people and all the things that they have going on in their lives. And what does it mean to set goals? Sometimes we think about, this is like right after the first of the year, we think about New Year's resolutions. And I think sometimes resolutions get a bad name. So I'd rather think about it from the standpoint of looking at setting goals all throughout your years, all throughout the year and all throughout your lives. So without any further ado, I'm going to ask Mr. Rose to introduce himself and tell us a little bit about who he is.
Thank you, Karen. Hello, everyone. My name is Justin Rose. I am a member of St. Bartholomew's Church in Baltimore. I'm so happy to be here to speak with you today about goal setting and what that looks like. I am 25 years old, and I have been a member of the Episcopal Church my whole entire life, and I have experience working with youth and young adults with this very exact topic that we're going to speak about today.
Great. So, Justin, has goal setting always been kind of front in, forward in your mind, even from a young age, or?
I would say so. I am blessed to have two very supportive and dedicated, and I would say goal-oriented parents who raised me. So there have always been a support system in place where I felt comfortable and I felt able to explore any options I wanted in terms of what I wanted to do. That includes goals and aspirations. So I felt very welcomed and included into that space from a very early age. And I believe that everyone, despite their backgrounds and what supports they might have, can approach goals in a way that's right for them. And I'll be sure to talk about that more.
Okay, all right. Before we kind of jump into everything, tell us a little bit more about who you are. Share a funny story or something unique about yourself that we may not know or even expect.
Well, I am an avid tennis and recently pickleball lover. I use this hobby, these sports, as ways to deal with stress. um, make friends, spend my free time. I really enjoy those things. I think that's very important, something that not many people uh, know about me. I would also say I also love music.
Mhm.
I've been singing since I was very young, played the clarinet. I've always been, I like to think, musically inclined. So that is a big part of my life as well. And recently, social justice work as well. I have a real interest in reparations as well as juvenile justice advocacy work as well.
Okay. All right. Wow. You are very well rounded and into a lot, right? At 25. What a wonderful kind of bio to even be able to give. Great. So talk to us a little bit about, you talked to us about the fact that, goal setting has kind of just always been a natural part of your environment and growing up. But tell us a little bit about, what has inspired you to set your goals and what have been some of the goals that you've set and achieved. So I'll just let you talk, okay?
Yeah. So honestly, the inspiration behind almost all of my goals now as an adult is there's a purpose behind them all. I found that in order for me personally to set a goal, there has to be a reason behind it and something that I want to achieve. This has come through just self reflection over the years, and I'm only 25, but as I've gotten older, I've noticed that I am more likely to stick to goals that I have set for myself if I understand and I want whatever the result of that goal is and achieving that goal. Specifically, recently, I would say just a goal for this year. We're not going to call it a New Year's resolution, but was for me to get better sleep.
Okay.
Um, and that was a goal I set at the beginning of the year, knowing that it would have a positive effect on my health,
Mhm.
positive effect on my ability to do the job that I do as a social worker, and also for me to be able to share that knowledge and experience um, with other individuals, particularly the youth that I work with, and how important that can be. Because I just feel like with this day and age with technology and cell phones, there is so much of a constant stimulant that can have a negative effect on a youth's ability to turn it on and off,
Mhm.
myself included. So that's one of few goals that I've recently am working towards.
Okay. And I'm just curious, do you write your goals down as you set them, or how do you keep track of setting the goal, having the purpose for the goal, setting the goal, and then as you achieve it, do you have like milestones along the way?
Absolutely. So I'm not one to write many things down physically because I have a very active mind. So it's very hard for me not to think about the goals that I've set constantly.
Mhm.
Um, but for other people who need that, I mean, vision boards are extremely helpful. I do to-do lists. Those can be extremely helpful. And in terms of milestones, I mean, I hold myself very accountable. Once I set out to do something, I will love using calendars. Don't write much down, but I love using calendars. I love marking off things on the calendar because it feels good to, maybe not physically, but on my phone at least, check
Mhm.
off that I've done something for the day or I've gotten the right amount of sleep for that day. And then I can also look back, like for example, we're already a month into the year. I can look back and see how I did, to make adjustments if necessary, and or to praise myself if I've done well so far,
Okay.
um, with on the timeline.
Do you celebrate your achievements?
Absolutely, you have to,
Okay.
but it doesn't for me necessarily. That doesn't celebrate can look different to different people.
Right.
Not like I'm throwing a party or anything like that, but just letting myself know, reminding myself like, good job, keep it up. Like this is why we started on this track to this goal in the first place. And for me, the best reward is being able to not only say but feel that you've done something that you put your mind to,
Hmm.
and reaping the benefits of that.
Okay. All right. So I heard that you do have some kind of maybe daily habits that you get into to mark how you're doing with your goals. But are any of those habits also that you get into, are they helpful in continuing to work toward your goal?
I would say so. I
Mhm.
would say that as we go, and almost like a daily reflection,
Mm.
it keeps me driven and motivated to keep going. Particularly on the days where I might not do or get to or am able to accomplish the goal that was set out for that particular day, or the goal that I'm working towards as a whole. I would say that that is motivating,
Mhm.
and it does keep me working towards that goal. But I will add that
Mhm.
this has taken quite some time for me to get to that point where accepting that not every day is going to be perfect. Not every day is going to come with what you think is going to come from that day. Emergencies happen, problems happen, schedules get switched around, things get mixed up. Not every day is perfect. That doesn't mean that we're dissuaded from our goal and the path to that goal. That just means that tomorrow is a new day.
Okay.
Let's continue on this path.
So so you sounds like you're your best cheerleader around that process too.
I've had to be, and I can speak more. I mean, to that, but it's just from the nature of my job, and also balancing the different plates that I am blessed to have at this
Mhm.
point in my life. I have to be my best, advocate. It has to be from me. There has to be an intrinsic motivation to continue working towards something at all times.
So talk a little bit about your job and how, I mean, you're 25, you've got your master's in social work, right?
I
You
do.
do. And so talk a little bit about how goals played a part in where you are right now, setting goals.
I completely, I will admit, I everything for me was goal oriented, but I had to make it more manageable on a smaller scale. I had to take things semester by semester, assignment by assignment, client by client. I had to take a micro approach to the macro goal, which was me becoming a social worker and being able to work with youth. Um, and that was very important for me not to get overwhelmed. I knew, and it's very important for everyone to try to understand what they are and are not good at. And
Mhm.
for me, I knew that if I was going to think long term on everything and just think everything as a whole, I was going to get overwhelmed just because of the amount of things that have to be done.
Mhm.
So for me, what worked very well was, let's not think about the whole picture because that will come, but let's think about even day to day, week to week, what needs to be done, what is the priority here,
Mhm.
and challenging myself to do what's I don't like first, as opposed to putting it off.
Okay.
Um, though that has really helped me reach a lot of my goals. That helped me tremendously through grad school, I would say.
Mhm.
Um, but as far as what I do as a social worker, I work with youth, 13 to 21, and these are a lot of the same things that I tell them. I work with a very underserved unprivileged community,
Okay.
to be very honest. So a lot of the kids that I work with do not have um, the resources or the knowledge or the supports in their life that
Mhm.
that I might have had, and I do everything in my power to let them know, around goal setting. Like, don't limit yourself, but also understand yourself and what you want to achieve out of this. What is your purpose? Because ultimately, I firmly believe that the purpose is going to drive someone more than anything to achieve any goal that they set.
Okay. So it sounds like with the young people that you work with, you're kind of almost like a role model, a living role model. You walk with them through that. What who were some of you? I know you talked about your parents. Were there other role models in your life that helped you around this whole issue of goal setting that you looked up to?
Yes, many, 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 and I'm very blessed that that was the fact. In addition to my parents, I had also other family members, my grandparents, my aunt. I was have been involved with church my whole life. Had positive role models in the church, the rector, other adults in the church through youth group, my peers, as well as at school. I had great teachers growing up, some of which who I saw as resources to me that I trusted and could talk about
Hmm.
things outside of the classroom, outside of the scope of just the subject that they were teaching, in terms
Hmm.
of life and making decisions and setting goals for yourself. Even more so, I would say when I got to college, when I was able to hone in on a career and have professors who really had the experience of the areas of interest that I had, and they could speak to what does it look like and how do you get there. Those supports and those contacts that I had were absolutely the most important, um, one of the most important role models that I had coming up. And in addition to that, I also had coaches. I played sports when I was younger. Coaches played a part in that. I was in the choir for many, many years.
Hmm.
Role models with the director and those sort of things. Seeing adults who were not only proficient at what they did, but you could tell that they had a passion for what they did as well. And that's something that can't really be spoken to, but it's something that you can feel and kind of understand when you're with them.
Hmm. And just listening to you talk about the young people that you work with, and it just sounds like you have that same type of passion within you as well. So it's like you just continue to pass it forward a little bit, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So
I,
were there?
yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. You were going to say.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, I genuinely believe that and want to see every young person do well.
Mhm.
Just despite the decisions that they might have made, despite the uh, the deck that they might have been handed, despite whatever might come across their path. I am truly, truly an advocate, and I feel as if I can provide any sort of assistance or knowledge as a young person myself, to them, to help them along their path and along their journey, with goals or anything. I love to do that. I truly do.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. I wanted to ask, have there ever been any setbacks that you've experienced or challenges that you've experienced, and then how that factored into your goal setting? Did you have to make adjustments, or did it make you want to strive that much harder to reach the goal? Just curious about that.
Absolutely. There is no. I might have gotten it together at this point at 25, but I promise you that it was not always this way.
Okay.
Um, but it's made me a better person. It really has, and it's showed me how to deal with adversity. Two examples come to mind.
Okay.
I was an average student in high school, I'd say. I mean, I had a B average, and I went to college my first 2 years. I mean, this is not something I tell everyone, but I went to college for my first 2 semesters my freshman year, and it was absolutely terrible. I mean, my grades were terrible. I was focused on the wrong thing,
Hmm.
and it was not clicking for me. My In my mind, I knew college was the place I needed to be to get to where I wanted to go career wise,
Hmm.
and I've always loved learning. I mean, that's I always loved education. I always loved hearing new things, learning new things. But there was something about my first year of college. I just struggled academically. I really did. So I came home that summer, and I had a job, and I took a summer class because I at that point I had to, because I needed to stay on track.
Hmm.
Um, and I had a lot of time to think that summer about what is it that I really want out of this? What is the purpose of me being here? Let's not waste any more time, or any more money, to be frank. And it was that summer that I really told myself and convinced myself and understood that my goal is to be able to help people. At that time, it was nursing, then it was to be a teacher, and then eventually a social worker. But at that point, I knew I wanted to be in a helping profession. I really
Hmm.
did. And I knew the path to that was through education and finishing school. That was enough for me to go back that second year and take care of business. There was no more neglecting the studies and deciding to be distracted by other things. It took me a whole year of failing and figuring out myself to understand what my the real purpose was, and to set a new goal there.
Hmm. Okay. Um, wow. It's hard to believe that, some people don't bounce back that easily from a setback,
Hmm.
right? They can get stuck. And it sounds like that you were able to really sit and reflect on what needed to happen, what needed to change. And that's wonderful. So I'm curious, do you have I love this term, but do you have a kind of big, hairy, audacious goal that you would like to share with the audience? I mean, we heard about the sleep for the next, improving that, but anything that some real huge goal that you have.
I think both personally and professionally, I do, um, because I think it's important to set your mind to anything. I mean, it can be as outrageous as you want it to be, as long as it's obtainable. I think that's okay.
Mhm.
Um, I want to be able to reach, as a child welfare professional, I want to be able to reach a larger scope, than just direct practice. Understanding that the current experience I'm receiving working directly with youth is immeasurable. The experience I'm getting, it's profound, and it is necessary. But my goal is, in the future, as my career goes on. I mean, I'm 25, so after I have some experience under my belt, I'd like to take more of a macro approach to all of this.
Okay.
I've always been interested in advocacy and policy, particularly around juvenile justice. But now that I'm in the child welfare sphere, also that as well. So I'd love to be an administrator one day
Okay.
and really have an effect on local policy, government policy, with how we deal with the foster care system and also the juvenile justice system,
Okay.
um, which are those are two passions of mine. Now, personally, I've understood, and as I've gotten older, I've determined that in order for me to be the best social worker, the best person, the best friend, and the best advocate that I can be, I
Mhm.
really needed to focus on myself personally first. So I had to really address some issues that I had, some health issues that I had. I had a lot of weight to lose that I've through hard work and dedication I've been able to address that part of my life and
Mhm.
my eating and my sleep, which I talked about earlier. And since incorporating those changes in my life, I've been able to add more to my plate, reach more people, and get involved in more activities and
Mhm.
hobbies and the job I do.
Mhm.
Um, it's been a profound difference for me. It really really has. And I will say that the goal moving forward is to just continue on that path.
Okay.
I'd like to find the hours in the day to become more involved than I already am, both in the church, but also professionally with different organizations that work with, the department that I work for. Um, so I think that is a goal of mine, not as specific as it may need to be, but I have time and I understand that.
Yeah.
But it's always good for me, and it helps me to always think of what is ahead, just so that that purpose is still front and front and in the front of my vision.
Yeah. Wow. So, you mentioned church a few times. So I'm just going to ask this question as a pastor, as a priest. I'm kind of curious. How does your spirituality, how does your faith factor into your setting goals and keeping those goals and just in achieving, what you set out to achieve?
A huge role, a huge role. I do have faith, a lot of faith, not only in myself but in other people.
Hmm.
And I would say that just having that faith and that spirituality allows me to be able to work towards a goal with the understanding that, like I said earlier, not every day is going to be perfect. Some days you're going to have wins, some days you're going to have losses. But as you stay on the course, you're going to be working towards a better thing and ultimately achieve your goal. And I genuinely believe that. I think that a lot of times, we can be sidelined by what's happening or how long it might be taking, or maybe we're not even sure that this is still what I want.
Hmm.
But I genuinely believe, and I'll pray about it, and I will, have conversations. Um, and it's very clear to me, very very clear to me that you will achieve what you put your mind to. You really really will. Now,
Hmm.
will it take a lot of work? Absolutely. Will it come just by praying on it and being hopeful that one day it'll magically show up to you? Absolutely not. But if you put the work in and if you have that purpose and that drive, it will come. It really, really will.
I need to put you in the pulpit to say a few sermons here. Yeah. This is wonderful. Wonderful. Um, so you've already kind of answered this question because it sounds like you realize that sometimes your goals may need to shift
Oh, yeah.
on some things. You start out with, like you said, you started out in nursing, then you realized that it was maybe teaching, and then you realized, wow, you knew the underlying effort or decision was to help others, but you
Yes.
explored, and so what's that like, and how do you process through some of that? I'm curious.
Honestly, it's difficult because when I was making those choices and transitions, I was 18, 19 years old. Despite at the time thinking that I was grown and I knew everything. I did not at all. I still am well aware that at 25 years old, I am far from knowing as much as I think I know. Um, but I will say it goes back to really knowing yourself, what you're good at, and what you can see yourself doing in the future and being happy with it. So I went through all of those different professions. wanting to be a nurse at first and determining that wasn't the right calling for me.
Hmm.
Um, when I just, you know, I really don't want to be responsible for somebody's physical health day in and day out. That's a little bit more than I knew I wanted to deal with.
Hmm.
And as a teacher, I knew, okay, yeah, I have the passion for teaching young adolescents, youth, and about whatever subject. At that time, I thought it was science,
Hmm.
but I'm really not interested in the whole in a school just having the impact on that child when they are, in school and seeing me as a teacher. That wasn't as interesting to me.
Hmm.
So I had a great conversation. I'll never forget it with a professor I had at Towson University. Took about five of her classes, and she really knew me by the end of those 3 semesters that I spent with her.
Hmm.
And I asked her, like, I was very lost, and after deciding teaching wasn't for me, and she knew I was a people person. She knew that I really enjoyed sitting down and having conversations with people, and I was a good listener. And she told me, "Have you ever considered, social work?"
Hmm.
And the answer was no, honestly. I mean, I knew of social work from, various movies and the portrayal that it gets in the media, which, that's a whole different topic. But that conversation, like back to what we were talking about earlier with the role models and the people that have gotten us to, where we are now, for me personally, that conversation with that professor really, that was like the aha moment for me,
Hmm.
because I learned not only can I help and advocate for not only can I help and advocate for youth, I can also have even more of an impact than that, um, and have other options as well. When I was speaking about the policy side of it and the more macro side of it, I didn't realize that at the time, but just through a conversation, I just had to ask, and that from that point forward, that really changed my life in terms of my goals and what I could accomplish, and really what I wanted out of a career.
Wow. Wow. I tell you, you are a very awesome young man. I love to hear your story. I definitely do, and there's so many meaningful ways that you, I know, will continue to help those that you are so passionate about, and staying open to being led to the next thing in your life. I think it's really is important, and I hear that just in how you speak about it. So, as we start to kind of wrap up at this point, I wanted to ask, are there any key takeaways that you would like our listeners to, to remember from the discussion that we've had today?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think self-reflection, it might not be for everybody, but I think really having an understanding of what it is that you're good at, not only from what people have told you, but from what you feel. I'm a very big believer in gut feelings.
Hmm.
They've served me very well throughout my life.
Hmm.
Um, I believe being in tune with that, with gut feelings that you have, and understanding really what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, not necessarily shying away from either or, um, but having that understanding can really help with the goal setting of what's attainable, what's feasible, and what is going to have that purpose in your life. I think that's really important. Also, not to focus so much about the time related to it, because I think in due time, the proper dedication and work towards a goal, it will come about. Like I use the example for school. Like, sure, I had to do summer and winter classes throughout, school to finish on time, but I still finished,
Hmm.
and we all have our own path to getting to the goals that we have. So just remembering that the time, while it is precious and limited, um, for something as important as your life, I mean, it's okay to have leniency with that.
Okay. Okay. So if you could go back and speak to your 18-year-old self, what would you tell yourself?
It's hard for me to think about telling myself to change anything because I think I turned out all right. Um, and I think part of any learning or growing is facing trials and tribulations. I would tell myself to stay the course.
Okay.
Um, keep exploring, keep making mistakes, keep maintaining and making new friendships and professional relationships because that really had a huge impact on me. I would tell myself to um, yeah, just continue to build those relationships and let yourself have those social experiences. Um, yeah, I wouldn't really change too much. I really wouldn't.
Good. Good. Well, thank you. Justin, I know we will probably be calling on you to come back again and give us some more wonderful insights into not only goal setting, but just in the advocacy work that you do. I think that that is so very interesting and so appropriate for today, for our young people. And so I sincerely appreciate your taking out the time and being with us today. Is there anything that you want to say before we wrap up? Anything further you want to say?
No, I just want to thank you, Karen, for having me and thinking of me. I really appreciate it. This is a topic that comes up very very often in my personal and professional life. So any light I can shed and any barriers that I can break down, I'm always happy to do so. So I really appreciate you allowing me to speak today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. And you are that light. You shine. You definitely shine,
Thank you.
which is why we thought of you. Thank you so very much. All right. So we're ending our session on goal setting. If this has been something that has been of interest to you, please let us know. We'll make sure that you get the directions on how to give us feedback, but we would love for our audience to give us some information on what you heard, how you might use it, or anything about this podcast that has meant something to you, and even how you may set your own goals. We look forward to seeing you again.